Hi, you're with Chandeep at Goodly once again, and I'm super stoked to present you a new dashboard on analyzing recruitment data for your own company. Now, this is a plug and play product that you can purchase as a template. You can feed the data inside the backend Excel spreadsheet, and you will be ready with the analysis in just about a few minutes. Now, in this video specifically, I will talk about three main topics. First is I want to show you the data that I have used to create the dashboard, which is where also you will feed your data inside. The next is I will talk about the features and the functionality of the dashboard, and I have done a lot of work to pack as much as information as possible, make the dashboard as rich as possible in terms of analyzing recruitment data. And finally, I want to talk about that how can you get the dashboard, connect your data to the dashboard, and make use of this for your own data. Before I move any further with the dashboard, I want to talk about the data first, show you the data, and then we will spend a lot of good time on understanding how the dashboard works in Power BI. So real quick, let's just hop over to the Excel and let's take a look at the data. All right, I'm in an Excel file which contains the data, and you can see that there are three sources of data. At the bottom, we have a positions data, which contains all the open positions in the company. We have the interviews data, which contains all the candidate details that appeared for the interview, and other costs, just in case you have any subscriptions of Indeed, Monster, LinkedIn, any kind of subscriptions that you source the candidates from, so that data. So mainly three data sets. We'll just take a look at the positions first. So we can see that we have the first field as requisition ID, which is nothing but a unique identifier for each positions that open up in the company. So you can write whatever ID here. I've just concatenated a few fields here. You can just also write 1, 2, 3 for the numbers, standard stuff. Just make sure that this column is not duplicated. Next, we have the requisition start date. Typically, when do you open the position? When do you start hiring for that position? That's the requisition start date. And expected close date is when do you want to close the position. We have the recruiter name, the person in charge for recruitment, the business, the department, standard stuff, the position that you're hiring for, again standard stuff, the number of positions. Again, this is a numeric column where you will only write the number of positions that you want to hire. If you're looking for 4 people, you will just write 4. If you're looking for 2 people, you'll write 2 here. The level and the band can depend from company to company. I have, just to make it simple, written junior, mid, and senior. You can just write L1, L2, H1, H2, whatever typical classification of bands that you have in the company. You can just write that here. Location that you're hiring for, in case you have the type of hiring, maybe it's a full-time, contractual, that kind of stuff, you can also mention that here. And one interesting field that I have captured here is the average CTC. So if you write the average CTC of the people working in this position inside the company, we would be able to compare this average CTC with the CTC that you're offering to the candidates whom you're hiring as to how much of an increase or decrease did you offer. So in case you offer more, the CTC will show you that you've offered more than what the average is of the current employees in the company. If you offer less, that's going to show less. So we'll take a look at that when we take a look at the dashboard. This has got to be a number. All right, we move on to the second sheet, which is the interview details. This is where you would capture the candidate details and put them down right here. So we take a look at the couple of columns that we have here. We have the requisition ID, which exactly comes from the positions data. So this is the ID against which the candidate would apply for the job, and you will exactly copy the position from the positions data and put it down right here. And obviously this can be duplicated since many candidates are going to apply for a single position. Just make sure that it's exactly matching what you have in the positions data and capture the candidate details against that. So in candidate details, what we have is the candidate name, the qualification, the phone number, email, pretty standard stuff that you have it here. The last CTC, which has to be a number, it cannot be a text. We have the total experience. The total experience can be a text or a number. So you can choose to write 5.6, or you can choose to write 5 years and 6 months. So just make sure that whatever way you're writing has to be consistent throughout the data. Then we have the candidate source. So you can just write the source of the candidate, where you're sourcing the candidate from. So it can be a consultant that you're hiring to get the candidate, or maybe a portal or a subscription service that you've taken. So just mention the candidate source right here. Post which we have interview notes. Just make sure that you write short notes, because we have a way of creatively presenting interview notes against each candidate. So you can just gather the notes, just write them in a concise manner in this column. And we have the first connect date. This is when you actually connected with the candidate for the first time, be that a phone call or a physical face-to-face interview. That's totally okay. You just have to write the first date against every single candidate. Note that I am talking about the date column, and there are a couple of other date columns as well in the data. So we have first connect date here, we have offer and the join date. We also had positions start date and the expected close date. All of these date columns have to be entered in the correct format. It can be a DDMM or an MMDD format. Make sure that these are correct dates and these are not texts. Offer date is when you release the offer to the candidate. If you haven't done that as of yet, this is going to be blank. Similar stuff applies to the joining date. If the candidate has joined or if you have a joining date for the candidate, you can just write that here, and otherwise this is going to be blank. And if you take a look at the next column, we have the status. Status is nothing but the current stage of the interview status of the candidate. So we have a couple of stages here. If you click on the drop down, I have given you the provision of marking the candidate in any one of these stages. So we have HR interview, we have 2 technical rounds, the management interview, we have the negotiation phase, offer joined, rejected. In case the candidate backs out, we even have a declined phase. Now a lot of you will ask, hey, is there a way to customize these stages? I have 7 stages, 10 stages, 2 stages, 5 stages. Yes, there is a way to customize that. On the right hand side, I have made a short table. In the table, you can mention the stage that you wanna have, and then also give it an order that what stage is it. Is it the first stage, second stage, third stage? Make sure that these stages are unique, and also we have an exclusive order number against every stage, and the data is automatically going to be sorted from the first until the last stage automatically. Just one thing, that the offered, joined, rejected and declined, these 4 things ought to be there in the data as it is. They can be at whatever position, that's totally okay, but they've got to be in the data because I've built some calculations which are looking for the word offered, joined, rejected and declined. And just to help you not to make a mistake while typing, I have connected this table as a drop down under the status, so you can make use of that. In case the candidate declines the offer, we also have a column of decline reason. You can mention whatever decline reason that the candidate gave you. We also have a CTC offered. In case you offer the CTC to the candidate at any point in time of the interview, you can just mention that here. This will give us an understanding of what the candidate had as a last CTC and how much increment did you offer when you were negotiating the job offer with the candidate. Final column, we have the cost of hire. Now you can see that here I have mentioned the cost of hire as a direct cost of hire, meaning if you're paying X amount of money to the consultant to get you the candidate to join the company, you can just write that here. If you have a subscription service, so let's just take a look at a couple of subscription services. So let's say this is a LinkedIn service that we have taken. We've paid a fixed fee at the start of the year to access LinkedIn database or something like that. And if you want to allocate that cost to every single candidate, you will have to calculate that and write that yourself here. The model will not do that as of now. But if you do not want to do that and you just want to capture the cost of these subscription services, I have a provision for that and a creative way of showing what the cost is for all of these people. So just mention the cost as to whatever cost you're incurring to directly hire the candidate. You can even write the cost of hire, you can even write the cost of interviews and all of that stuff right into this column. Right before I move to the other cost sheet, I also want to give you a relief and tell you that yes, there is a provision of adding newer columns to this data in case you want to add 1 or 2 columns which I haven't been able to capture, that you explicitly capture while taking a requisition or interviews and stuff like that. There is a provision of adding new columns to these tables, and that will start to show up in Power BI. All right, let's just move on to the other costs. Really simple. We just have 4 columns here. We have the portal or the service name. These are the subscriptions that you're buying, and we have the start date and the end date. When does it start? When does it end? Again, a date column, so make sure the dates are written correctly. We have the total cost of subscription as to how much money did you pay at the start of the year. So you can just write the name of the subscription, the start date, end date, and the cost of it. There is one very important thing that I have to mention, is that in case you are making a hire against any of these subscriptions, or you're getting applications, or the source of the candidate is any one of these subscriptions, you should just write the name exactly like the way it appears in this table. So if Indeed is appearing this way, you have to make sure that you write Indeed exactly the same way in the interviews data against the source of the candidate. So let's just go find Indeed, just have to write it the same way. Alright, that was all about the data. Now let's just move on to Power BI and let's just take a look at the dashboard and spend most of the time in understanding the functionality and the cool features that I've created for you. Alright, we are in Power BI and let's just take a look at the dashboard. Let me explain to you the layout real quick. So on the top we have 3 tabs. We have a position tab, we have the interviews tab, and we have the higher cost tab. These will help you navigate between 3 screens that I have created. So positions, interviews, and higher cost. We have a date filter on the top that allows you to select the as on date. So currently the dashboard that you're seeing is as on July 2019. And if you want, you can also change that, and you can even go week wise. So if you want to go in August and probably you want to take a look look at only week 1, you can just click on week 1, and this dashboard, all the metrics will revise until the first week or the 31st week of August 2019. Okay, just remember that this dashboard is an as-on dashboard. That means all the metrics that you see are as-on cumulative until the particular date. We have some cards on the top which display the critical metrics. We have positions till date, we have applications till date, how many people have you hired till date, what is the percentage of the completion of the hiring, how many people did you offer but haven't joined you yet, hired plus offered, that's the total of this one, and what's the total cost until the current date that you've incurred on hiring. We have some key filters which directly come from the columns that we captured in the data that we saw a while ago. We have level and the band, we have the recruiter, the type, the location, and the department. Now in the department you have like a sub filter, which is where you can filter by department, and you can also filter by the position inside of the department. So this is IT. In IT we have all of these positions open. We have AVP, we have a consultant, we have a senior consultant, and a vice president. So you can just filter it out, and you can even go a level down and take a look at the positions. All right, we have then the hiring status by the business, that how many positions did the business ask us to hire. So in risk advisory we had 33 positions open. We have currently hired 23, and if you hover the mouse on top of that, you get to see some additional metrics. You can also see the percentage of the completion of the hiring for that particular business. If you've been working with Power BI, you already know that once you click on a particular chart, all the metrics, all the data gets cross-filtered. So of course, when I click on risk advisory, all the metrics in the dashboard is going to revise itself to show me the details for risk advisory. So we have a chart here. The chart actually shows me that when the positions were opened for risk advisory and how have they accumulated across time, and when did the hiring begin, and how did the hiring kind of come across the time. So you can see that eventually until week 27 we have 70% of the hiring completed for risk advisory. Now this chart is pretty interesting because this chart actually you can read it in two ways. You can see the vertical difference between the gray and the green. This simply means that what is the percentage completion of hiring that you have until the current date, and the horizontal difference between the gray and the green, which tells you that when did the position come to you for the first time. That means in week 4 we got the first position, and the first hire was made in week 16. The longer this is, the bad the hiring, the shorter this is, the good the hiring process. On the right hand side we have a table which tells you the bifurcation of the hiring in different bands of the days. So you can see that between 31 to 16 days we still have 8 positions open, and we have done no hires for that. For the positions between 91 to 180 days we had 21 positions open which are that old, and we have completed 19 hires for that. And positions at 180 plus days, they were 4, and we have finished hiring for that, so that's good. So you get to see the band distribution of different positions and how many positions have you hired for that. At the bottom we have a table which shows you all the data in a little more detail. So you can see that we have 33 positions here, and those are the details for all those 33 positions right here. So you can see that we had 4 requisitions open. We had a start date, we have a start date for them, and for how long have they been open, so that's the open days. How many positions do we have to hire against them, how many people have we hired against that requisition, what are the balance hires that we still have to make in case the requisition is complete. That means you were asked to hire 8 people and you hired 8 people. The check mark comes, that means you don't have to do any more hires for that, that's complete. And in case you're still pending on that, that's a cross. In case you overhire, that means you were asked to hire 8 and you hired 9, the sign becomes like a exclamation sign. We have application till date, that how many people have applied for all these positions until the current date. Average days to hire, especially for the positions against which we have hired. We have the target days to hire, that means what was the target given to us, how many people offered and haven't joined yet, backed and rejected. Now once you're taking a look at a particular requisition ID and you just kind of forget that, hey, I can't seem to remember what requisition was this which asked me to hire 8 people and I still haven't hired any one of them. So let me just go take a look at this. So once you hover the mouse on top of 8, it gives you more details about that particular requisition. So you can see that it was for risk advisory business, it was for financial risk department. You were supposed to hire a consultant, a junior position in Gurgaon, and the recruiter was Fritz Summer. So you get to see these details once you hover the mouse on top of any particular position, and you get to see additional details about that position. Right, I want to talk about one additional feature of this screen which you would really like. Take a look at this position. We had 40 people applying for this position and we have completed the hires. We have done 4 hires, and you can also see that we have 5 people who backed the offer. We gave them the offer but they did not join, and 15 people who were rejected. Now maybe I just want to take a look at all the people who applied for this. I want to take a look at the names of the people backed out, the names of the people rejected, and so on and so forth. So what you can do is you can right click on the position ID or the requisition ID, click on drill through and click through interviews. Now what this is going to do is this is going to take this requisition ID which we've just right clicked on, and it's going to apply a filter on the interview sheet, and you will have all the interview details for only this requisition ID. So let's just go here and take a look at what's happening. So once I click through interviews, I only get to see the details for that particular position, and you can see on the top that we have 4 positions open. We have applications, 40 applications. We have done 4 hires, 100% of the hiring is completed, and all the necessary details on the top. Just like the last screen, we have the critical metrics right here, and we also can see that we have the key filters on the top. We have again the selection of the time on the top. In case you want to change the period, you can change it. On the left hand side, we have the application and the hiring by source. That means what applications you received from which source, and against a particular source, how many people have you hired. That means I was able to hire 3 people from employee referrals only, and there were 14 applications that came for this particular position. And just like I was telling you earlier, if you click through this, you will exactly get to see which 14 applications have come through this. So if you just scroll down, these are nothing but 14 applications that came through this. Of the 14 applications, 6 got rejected, and you can even take a look at the status of the current application on the right. In between, you have a timeline, which is where it shows you that how the hirings happened. So this is how the applications came to you. In week 7, you got 23 applications. In week 8, you got 40 applications. Then you did not get any applications, and your hiring began in week 18. So week 7 is the time when you received the first application, and week 18 is the time when you got the first hire. It also shows you some other details like how much hiring has completed until the current date, and also what is your hire to application ratio until the current date. At the bottom, just like before, we again have a table here which shows you the details of every single candidate this time that appeared for the interview. So let's just take a look at this table. We have the requisition ID, we have the name of the candidate, we have the email of the candidate, we have the qualification of the candidate, we have the total experience, we have the average hire days of that candidate. When was the first time you connected, which is the first connect date? When was the first time when you offered the candidate? What is his joining date? In case the candidate is joining in the current period, that means he has already joined the company within June 2019, you would see a tick. But if the candidate is going to take a while to join the company, you would not see a tick, but you would just see the offer date and the joining date. The joining date is going to be beyond June, but you can still see that the candidate is going to join but hasn't joined yet. We have the last CTC, we have the CTC offered, we have the growth of the CTC. That means what growth have you given to the candidate, what percentage hike have you given to the candidate. We have the delta from the average. Remember that we collected information about the average CTC in our data. This is where I'm finding out that if your average CTC of all the employees working in the company for that position is X, how much deviation have you made to this particular candidate from the average CTC that you collected? So that's another interesting number that you can take a look at. We have the cost of the hire in case you have directly paid to the consultant. How much money have you paid to the consultant? Remember, any of the portal services that you have is not going to be shown up as the cost of the hire. So here I'm only capturing the direct cost. The cost details of the subscription services is going to come on the next sheet, which is the hire cost. And in case the candidate declined, you would get to see that what was the reason that the candidate declined. You can just get to see that here. All right, now let's just say that maybe you want to take a look at everybody who joined the company. So how do you filter that? So here we have interview stages. So if I click on joined, I get to see all the details for the people who have joined the company. I can also see that what is the average growth that I've given to all those 4 people who have joined my company. The cost of hire and all those necessary details I get to see about those people. Now let's say, for example, you want to recall something about the interview with Lewis Russell, right? And if you hover the mouse on top of Lewis Russell and any of his details, you get to see the interview notes as well. So you get to see that, okay, what interview notes did you take and why did you hire that particular candidate? So you get to see all the relevant details here, including the details about the position and the requisition and the source. And in case you want to take a look at the people who were rejected or declined, you can see that despite giving a 28% hike in the salary, all of these people declined for those reasons. You can even take a look at the notes for that particular candidate that you took while you were interviewing the candidate. All right, now that you've analyzed the particular screen for that particular requisition ID, what you can do is you can go back to the overview screen right from here. So you can see that we have a back symbol here, and if you hold the control key and click on the back symbol, you're going to get back to the overview screen. And if you would like to go and take a look at the interview details for any other positions, maybe let's just go take a look at let's just click on risk advisory, and let's just go take a look at this position, which is where we have 80 applications so far, but we have hired none of them. You want to take a look at every candidate and what's the status for that candidate. So I can right click here, I can again go through drill through, and I can click on interviews, and I'm here again, and which is where I don't see a status for join, but I can see the applications coming through. So I can actually click on decline and take a look at all the people who have declined our offer so far, and take a look at the reasons so far, the average salary growth that we have given, these people who have declined the offer, where did they come from, and things like that. Now let's say, for example, you don't want to apply a particular filter to this sheet. You just want to see this entire sheet unfiltered. What you can do is the filter that you brought from the overview sheet, you can cancel that through the visualization tab. So if you click on the visualization tab, here at the bottom, we have the requisition ID filter. I would not suggest you that you click on the cross, because cross is going to remove the filter, so you'd not be able to do the drill down, but instead you can press the eraser sign and you can clear the filter, and this sheet is completely unfiltered, and you can take a look at all the positions, all the candidates who appeared for any position until the current date. All right, let's just go take a look at the last screen, which is the higher cost. So what I can do is I can control click on higher cost, and I can go to that screen, and here are a couple of metrics that I've displayed in the hiring cost. So we have direct hires, that means the people whom you've hired through a consultant and employee referral. So these are direct hires. The people whom you're hiring through subscription services, those are called subscription hires. The total of that is 37. That's the number that we saw. How much money have you spent on direct hires through consultants, employee referrals and stuff? And how much money have you spent on subscription services? The total of that is the total cost until the current date. We have the level, we have the band, we have the recruiter, type, candidate, all these key filters. You saw that earlier, and you can filter your cost data by that. One interesting thing that I've given to you is that if the cost numbers become large, you can also denote them into thousands or into units as per your wish. So the cost is going to change as per this selection. As of now, I'm just going to select units. And we have again the hiring cost by business. So you can see that, okay, how much money did we spend on risk advisory? Note that the number that you see, which is 30,320, is the bifurcation of the direct cost only. I am not allocating subscription services to the individual business. So what you see here is only direct hiring cost for that particular business. So once you hover the mouse on top of that, you see some additional metrics which are really helpful. How many applications came, what is the percentage of the hiring, and what is the cost percentage mix, and so on and so forth. So these are pretty interesting. And like I've been telling you over and over again, once you click on risk advisory, everything gets filtered as per that, and you can see the additional details. At the bottom, we have the hiring by application source. That means where the application came from, and how much hires have you made against that source, and how much money actually have you paid to that application source. So here we have a consultant name, HR Sigma, and if you hover the mouse on top of that, we have paid them $10,850 for, I don't know how many people have we hired. 3 people we have hired. If I click on that, I get to see exactly the 3 people that I have hired right here, right? I can actually get to see the number of days that we hired, the average number of days, what is the CTC that we offered, how much is the individual hiring cost. That totals up to $10,850. And you can do that similar stuff for every single application source. Now, at times you want to see a detailed breakup. You can even search for the candidate, that how much money have you paid for a particular candidate. You can even search for that. All right, I want to bring to your attention the next table that we have, which is where you see the details of the direct hires. So I have the requisition ID, I have the candidate source, I have the candidate name, the first connect date, the joining date, average days to hire, CTC offered, what is the hire cost for that particular candidate, and what is the direct cost divided by the number of candidates. So the cost per candidate, that's what you get to see here. Here is an entire table that gives you the details about 37 candidates that we have actually hired. At the bottom, we have the details of the subscriptions that we have purchased. So we have all these subscriptions that we have purchased, Monster, Naukri, LinkedIn, and what has been the performance of all of these. Now, let's say for example, you're trying to understand, I don't remember buying the Monster subscription. Why does it show me a value of 2998? If you hover the mouse on top of that number, you also get to see the duration when you purchased the subscription, the start date and the end date. We've purchased a subscription twice already, from Jan to December and November to June 20. And you can see the total value that we have committed to that. It's about $3,000. Of that $3,000, we have consumed 1487 and the balance is 1511. The total days were 608 days of utilization. Of that, we have utilized 427 days. We have got 77 applications from this source only. We have made 5 hires from here, and this is the hire to application ratio, and this is the per candidate cost. And you can again filter this entire table the way that you would want it. So this pretty much shows you the quality of the applications that are coming to you, and in case you're making any hires and in case you want to get rid of any particular subscription through the performance metrics. All right, that was all about the dashboard. And once you purchase this template, what you can do is you're going to get the access to the template, the Power BI file, which I'm just showing it to you now, and the backend Excel file, which is where you can store the data. So as soon as you store the data in these 3 tables, positions, interviews, and the other cost, and you click on Control S to save them, and you come back to the dashboard and you hit a refresh on the dashboard, all of these metrics are just going to be revised to your own data. Now, one thing before I end the video real quick is that a lot of companies do not have subscription costs. They do not take any kind of subscriptions. They directly hire through employees or maybe the consultants. So if that is the case with you, what you can choose to do is you can choose to leave aside the other cost details, the subscription cost details, and do not fill them up, and you will still get to see all the numbers for only the direct cost of hires. Okay, that's all about it. I would love to have your feedback on how did you find it. In case you have any questions about the dashboard, any calculations, you would like to have more understanding about it, I'd love to answer your questions. Please put them down in the comments below and I'll be glad to help you out. Thank you so much for watching this, and you take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.